You are alive? So got that there. do that. And then let's swap that over. Settings.
That was the thing that came up
last week. Very strange. But I mean, all those internet things now do things like Apple will send you a, we've added extra protections to. I didn't ask for your fucking protections. Fuck off. Added extra protections. Oh, there we go. Didn't ask for your fucking protections. Fuck off. Added extra protections. Oh, there we go. Didn't ask for your fucking protections. Fuck off. Added extra protections. Oh, there we go. Didn't ask for your fucking protections. Fuck off. Well, there you go. Well, we're live anyway.
We got the right camera.
Oh yeah, we're live anyway. Oh yeah, we're live anyway. And the audio sounds fantastic.
Well, it sounds terrible because
the audio sounds fantastic. Yeah, right.
Well, it sounds terrible.
Anywho, well, I'm a little annoyed by that. It's got me baffled. We got in here 15 minutes early to try and figure out what was going on with that, and what was working or not working, or why it was not working. But I still don't have any answers for that particular question. Anywho, we're live, big fella. My phone's telling me not bloody much for some reason. A little bit baffled, in fact. But yeah, I can see here where it says who can see it, and it's locked in on private, and I can't edit it for some reason. So something not quite going on here. Oh. Anyway, do you want to kick the game off, or
What the shit?
not just yet? Still telling me it's private. What the fuck is that?
Right. No, you'll sort it out. I got faith in you, lad.
Oh, look, I'm the tech guru of tech gurus for sure.
I got faith in you, lad.
35. It's a little annoying, though, I'm telling you, because I don't like to have to work this hard to make bits of technology. Just do what I tell it to do. This is the bit that's got us a little bit buggered here, and I don't know why.
Like friends.
I don't know.
Why can't you get in there?
Not sure.
That bit.
That's the bit that needs to be, and that's the bit that I normally, on every episode, I just hit it up in here and go click, 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 and it does what it's supposed to do.
Well.
Anyway, I do have some super, super techie friends. I might have to reach out to them this week and work out what dumb shit Facebook's decided to do to annoy me. Maybe we've been banned from this as well. Ha!
When you create the event, you've got to send it to public.
Yeah, but I don't create the event. That's StreamYard does that. I don't even.
Once you can't change the privacy setting after it's been created, so it's got to be done at the StreamYard end.
Yeah, but that's where it's always done. We've never had to change that before.
No, but that's where it'd be.
That's a bit retarded. Anyway, let's
do it. You can't do it in that end.
Well, I've always been doing it on that end. We've done that every week since we've been doing this little shit show. Yeah, you see, we're not actually creating it on Facebook. So I'll email these donkeys at StreamYard and I'll go, listen, dipshits, I pay money for this thing, make it fucking work.
Okay.
How does that sound?
Mate, whatever floats your boat.
I'm a people person after all, so if I have to pick a fight with StreamYard, I'll just put them on my fucking list, which is where I'm at this week. Podcasts, audio, virtual. Anyway.
You're going okay, aren't you?
Yeah, just little things annoying me.
Right.
Anyway, we're live, big fella. We're running a bit late because this stupid Facebook thing has decided that it wants to, I don't know, have its own opinion. And I don't believe that it should have opinions ever. It's Facebook. Fucking computer. Anywho, ladies and gentlemen, turning of Spin Doctors, we are running late. I better put a post up suggesting that we have a bit of a look.
On the YouTube.
Hit it up on the YouTube, so we'll do that. Sorry about the delay. I don't think I even have any phone service. That's how good Optus is going at the moment.
Oh, no.
Mind you, we can put a man on the moon. But anywho.
Right.
Anywho.
Any bloody who.
Yeah, it's very strange. Anyways, it is what it is now, guys. It is what it is. I thought we'd have it fixed. I just figured it was a glitch last week, but apparently Facebook and StreamYard are doing some weird shit in their marriage.
And the problem will be that someone's changed something at one end and hasn't, the other people haven't picked it up.
Yeah, that's all it would be. It's going to be something stupid, but it's going to annoy me now. And it irritated me last week. Now I'm annoyed by it. So I'll have to fire off an email to those pricks and go, listen, you lot need to sort this out. Otherwise, I'll just change streaming provider. There's a million of them.
That's exactly right. And we'll sort it out. We've been doing pretty well.
Oh, look, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I think
better. Now, let's do some intros. My name's Anthony Irvine. I'm a councillor on Temora Shire Council, but the views I express here are mine and mine alone.
I'm Dean McRae, and I'm not elected by anybody, anywhere, to anything much, which is not a bad thing. All opinions I express here are definitely my own, and I'm a big supporter of free speech, so I even endorse your ability to call me names if you so choose. But I do shoot pretty straight. I say exactly what I think unapologetically. And I'd like to think that realistically, unless I receive better information to the contrary, I'm pretty consistent in my principles and my positions.
That's a bit old school to have that attitude of give as good as you get.
I know there's something wrong with me. There's definitely something not quite right. But anyway, I've learned to live with that, and I'm fairly comfortable in that space.
Okay, let's roll into the homework. The homework was we spoke about the absolute ridiculous position down in Bega Shire where people who are living in a tiny home that they built to code.
Yep.
Allegedly to code. They've claimed that it was to code.
Yes.
It's on a engineered chassis and rolling axles. And it's on a friend's place, not viewed from off the property, are being threatened by Bega Valley or Bega Shire Council. And the landowner themselves are being threatened with up to $1 million in fines, allegedly.
Yes. Well, not allegedly. That was the article, wasn't it?
Well, but it's only on the hearsay of Manu and his boyfriend. So we don't know.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
We haven't seen the paperwork. So allegedly, it's probably a pretty fair word at this point in time.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I wouldn't think it would be too much of a stretch to believe that. But that's how it goes. Now,
what did you discover? What have you discovered?
I've just been thinking about it. So we've got an engineered housing crisis, an engineered cost of living crisis, an engineered oversubscription of available land and housing in Australia by the federal government with their ridiculous immigration targets.
Yep.
And this is just the very beginning. Well, no, it's just a development or an extension of what's been occurring that we've been seeing it before our eyes. Yeah. When you look at the situation in, say, for example, Wilkes Park at Wagga Wagga.
Yep.
With the amount of homeless people there living in tents.
And rapidly growing.
Yes. And other anecdotal evidence of homeless people living in Temora and other areas. So that's been occurring now for a couple of years, and that's pretty much directly due to the unavailability of social housing and the unavailability of affordable housing and this housing crisis, which is, it's not a crisis if someone's engineered it.
No,
it's a housing balls up.
It's a housing plan. It's managed decline.
It is a managed plan. There is no doubt. It's not a crisis because it's intentional.
Yep, without a doubt.
A crisis is something that's been unexpected. Well, this is completely expected. When you've got a housing shortage and then you bring 600,000 people in a year into a population of about 26 million.
Oh, come on. They didn't know.
No, well, they do.
No, and they would never do that. They have your best interests at heart.
Yes, and if the people that they were bringing in were builders and they had a nail bag and a nail gun and they had some tools strapped on when they got off the plane, we wouldn't have a housing shortage because they'd be building more than they're taking up.
Well, you'd reckon so, wouldn't you?
But they're not. Most of them are students. 100,000 of them are just foreign students.
Yeah, right.
So
there you go. And the other 500,000 are here because we have an excellent welfare system that overindulges people.
But this is part of this thought process. Now, when you invite 600,000 people from other countries into your country, they bring with them their own set of morals, beliefs, behaviours that aren't the learned, accepted behaviours of Australia, perhaps.
Well, we're culturally becoming multicultural, and we've got to share our cultures with, but these people, and they've got to share their cultures with us so that we can be more learned.
And I don't want to sound racist here, but there seems to be a crisis developing in Victoria with gang violence and some pretty extreme events.
They're just sharing their culture.
And some pretty extreme events to the point that the government are contemplating, I don't know whether they have, I don't know if it's been legislated yet, outlawing machetes.
It's already been done. That rolled through in about 15 minutes.
Now, my point is this: why on earth is that necessary in Australia? That's not the Australia I grew up in.
No, but we keep fucking porting the third world, and we're going to become a third world shithole like the third world. So that's what happens.
We are importing other countries' troubles in a lot of respects.
Absolutely we are.
And this is the end result.
Yep.
Okay. No, this is just
no, that's exactly what it is. We're importing third world shit. And we're getting third world shit. And if you call it third world shit, you're obviously a racist.
Yes.
Because, it's okay. They don't know any better. It's not their fault while they're wielding machetes.
But before all this happened, it was unlikely that someone would pull out a machete in the middle of Melbourne.
Certainly wasn't a common practice to the degree where I think it was two last weeks.
A gardener may have, to tackle an unruly lantana.
Yeah, like Australia's not perfect. I mean, we started out with the country as convicts and criminals. There's no point pretending that it hasn't, but there certainly hasn't been this just complete lunacy of people running around breaking into people's houses ad nauseum, wielding machetes in supermarkets. Sure.
So it's a level of behaviour that the average Australian who's of an Australian second or third generation wouldn't.
It's not something that's a top line thought process for most.
It's not something that we'd be used to, and it's not something that we consider appropriate.
No, I don't consider wielding a machete in that manner appropriate. I guess.
So I suppose my point is that with the massive influx of new migrants into Australia with their different ways of seeing the world and their different ways of behaving, Australia needs to get ready for a completely massive cultural shift.
Oh, look,
and the Australia that we know,
it's I know, and you're still far more optimistic than I am, but Australia's currently in its death throes as we know it. Between the NDIS is going to collapse in the next, I reckon, five years, if that. When that collapses, there goes we're hitting hyperinflation. That's going to be done.
We're already hitting hyperinflation.
Oh, look, and the only people who are equipped to handle it are these poor machete-wielding bastards because they never had anything to start with. They'll do very, very well under those circumstances, whereas we soft, sensitive, well-educated Australians are going to get our asses handed to us.
This sort of feeds into my undeveloped line of reasoning that I'm starting to consider.
Yep.
Now, it's not set in stone, it's just formative. But when you look at the situation perhaps with the cigarette, we've got a government that wants to tax cigarettes to the moon, so then a black market develops.
Well, that's probably the most successful industry in Australia currently, other than the NDIS.
Because due to the excessive taxation, I can't think of any other reason why, because up until the excessive taxation, there was virtually a non-existent
black market for cigarettes because people could just afford to buy them and they would buy them. And that was their choice.
People want to be law-abiding citizens. They don't want to break.
I think the majority do, yeah, absolutely. In large, I'd say the majority of people within reason want to be pretty reasonable and easy to get along with.
Then you've got what will be the commencement of the next wave. And the next wave will be people taking housing off others, camping in disused buildings unlawfully.
Which is already happening. That's already happening. There's a fellow who calls himself Purple Pingers running around. I think he ran at the last federal election. And his big thing is, squatters and squatters' rights. And
I saw an article, and I haven't got access to it quickly now, but I haven't fully read it, so it's only just. But I think the gist of it was that someone had gone to a house had just been auctioned, and they packed up the stuff and moved, and someone broke in and squatted.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
And all of a sudden, then they've got the problem of moving them out.
And that's when you need somebody with a machete to go in there and move them out.
But
so we could solve two problems, Now,
okay. So that's where that's getting to. Now, I saw something the other day in South Australia where the government may take underdeveloped land off people.
Oh, good. And they're busy calling Trump a fascist. Unbelievable, these people.
Now, 2 days ago, and this is a headline that's just come up from the Family First Party of Australia.
Yep.
This is the headline. The so-called use of vacant land bill passed by the upper house of the South Australia Parliament last week would give governments the power to seize privately owned land without consent or compensation if bureaucrats decide the land has been vacant too long or underdeveloped.
Now, you can vote your way into communism, but you have to shoot your way out. Now, we're getting closer and closer to that on a weekly basis. This sort of shit tells you everything you need to know. They will come. They will take your shit. There will not be a thing you can do about it. They're gutting the aspirational portion of this country. If you have the audacity to build, create, develop, purchase, own assets, you are a target from these pathetic communist, socialist fucks. That's what you are.
So what happens when you extrapolate that out? When you're living in a 4-bedroom house, but there's only you and your wife there.
They'll be moving in. They're going to show up with a busload of
They're going to turn up with a house removalist team and a massive chainsaw and just say, well, you're not using those other 2 bedrooms?
No, they're just going to knock on your door. And this is, I'm telling you, it sounds ludicrous. Here's what's going to happen, because they're talking about moving 9 million more people into Melbourne alone in the next, I think it was by 2050, they want 9 million more in Melbourne, which means they're going to do that across the whole country. They're going to rock up to your house with a bus full of Christ knows what from God knows where. And I can give shit what your skin color is, but some cultures do not collaborate well with ours. And they're going to go, these people are here. You're only using 1 bedroom. You need to have at least 15 of these pricks living in your house, and you don't get a choice. And we have the guns because we are the government and you are the plebs.
Now, you recall that couple of shows ago we discussed in the newspaper the article about the housing vacancy
Oh, Rick running around with his camera fucking flipping through people's window. Yeah, exactly right.
So Temora Shire Council have got someone employed ascertaining which homes are vacant, why they're vacant. Are you
Same shit.
Are you getting some vibes here?
The vibes I'm getting are the same ones I've been banging on about for 10 years. Or the vibe I'm getting is it's just getting fucking closer.
But the vibe I'm getting is socialism is...
It's here. It's in full swing. Yeah. We're fucked.
Yes.
You know, and unless people start to actually come back pretty hard,
what gives someone the right to just take land?
They don't have rights. We vote them and we give them the rights. And then they take more rights and we go, oh, it's not so bad. Right up until we have to shoot our way out of it. And that's where it's going.
Let me grab that article. Just give me
you go for that. That's fine.
Because I've got that handy. I'm sure I have.
Oh, no doubt you would. No doubt you would. You know,
it was a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. You know. In other news, an alleged kitty fiddler has been found in town. That's an interesting one. Apparently they're popping up everywhere. Alleged, of course.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was. I don't know any of that's been actually released, has it?
I don't know how much of it's been released. I know that you know, the grapevine does what the grapevine does around this bloody joint, and sometimes there's a little bit of truth to it, and sometimes you've got to question who says what, where, and when.
Well, I know that. Well, let's just put publicly out what appeared, and this has been published in today's the Temora Independent, Thursday, June 12. Now, there's no journalist putting their name to this, so we'll have to attribute it to the editor, Peter Marnie. Serious charges arrest. A 61-year-old Temora man has been arrested and charged with a number of serious offences. He's been remanded to appear in Kuta Local Court on June 16. He is charged by a specialist police command on May 25. Due to the nature and sensitivity of the alleged offences, no other information is being released at this time.
So an uneducated guess, of course, is it's either kitty sex offences. Yes. He's got bombs and nuclear weapons in his backyard. He's not supposed to have, whoever this 61-year-old fellow is.
Yeah, but even that, they'd report that.
They'd report that, you would think. The only reason it's sensitive is because kids have been touched.
Someone underage.
And to be fair, that's when you do need the nuclear weapons to shove and fare up these kitty fiddlers' asses.
Well, allegedly
shove and fare up their asses.
Until proven guilty. So we'll just have to wait for that to unfold. But anyway, as it happens. Now, the same publication from Thursday, 22nd of May, and back onto the previous thought bubble that we were in bouncing along on.
Yeah.
Council addresses the housing crisis. Now, Temora Shire Council is pleased to announce significant progress in the vacant homes project, aimed at addressing the housing crisis affecting our community. Identifying vacant homes, stakeholder engagement, community impact, case study.
Here's the stakeholder engagement. The stakeholder is whoever owns the fucking house. End of story. That's the only stakeholder. Everybody else, mind your business, bugger off, and stick your nose out of it. I know that we're becoming the Labor Party around
have
here.
You mowed the grass? If you're causing offence to any of your neighbours? Have you paid your rates? That's about the end of story, isn't it?
Well, even that's too much of a story, but yeah, that's, I suppose the average punter would go, that's fair enough.
Yeah, like don't offend your neighbours.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I had a member of the public come and see me this week, quite concerned. They've got a neighbour and they feel that this neighbour's got some animals that had the animal feces aren't being collected frequently enough, and there's a great build-up in the backyard. And I feel this person's pain. I can imagine the stench and the flies in summer would be horrendous. And they're the sorts of things that I think do impinge upon the amenity for the local neighbourhood, and I think being part of
it, did they just reach over the fence and say, can you clean up all this animal shit?
I think there's been some interactions in that space,
right?
And there's been some unfortunate turns of events in that space.
Colourful then.
So hopefully, because realistically, to my mind, if you're going to live in a neighbourhood, in a community, you've got to at least pick up your dog shit.
I don't oppose picking up your dog shit.
You know what I mean? Just
yeah.
Within reason. I don't mean follow the dog around and just every time he grunts, like,
but
get a bag.
If your yard just wafts of dog shit, you got 5 dogs and you've never
and if it's got massive amounts of
life,
dog fecal matter, I believe that even from a council's perspective, there's a public health issue.
Yeah.
You know, you've got flies, you've got runoff, you've got all sorts of different issues, you know, from that. But surely as grown-ups, these people must have some... Anyway.
There are plenty of people running around the joint that probably shouldn't be, and, you know, again...
Anyway, so that's one thing that came across my desk this week. So hopefully we're going to work through the process, the formal process, and hopefully we can get some sort of a resolution for these poor people who are being afflicted by this problem.
Sounds very serious.
Well, it is. And it would be to you if it was something that was occurring next to you and it was causing you, if you were there all day and you had to put up with it and it stunk, there'd be a certain point where you go, I've had enough of this.
I reckon I would have knocked on the door and, you know.
Just ask nicely.
Yeah.
And what if they did nothing?
Well,
they did knock on the door and ask not nicely.
Not nicely. And then there's a list, you know, there's a list of things, processes one can take.
Anyway,
so different horses for courses.
But that's one that came across my desk. Back to this other thing that we're talking about, though. We've got the South Australian government saying that they can take land without compensation off anyone whenever they like, and basically the decision rests with the bureaucrats. That is very, very, very scary. We've got a person employed by Temora Shire Council running around peeping in windows.
Which is the equivalent of a bureaucrat. That's what a bureaucrat is. Yes. A useless fucking entity employed by a government agency.
And here we are running a deficit budget.
It's fucking bullshit, mate.
That's not generating any income.
Of course it's not generating, but it's generating control.
Yes.
That's what it's about. All this is control.
What on earth are they identifying these homes for? Then they're going to take them by force.
Yes, of course they will. They won't do it this week. They'll bring in that first bit. When everyone's comfortable with that first bit, and the next little bit will come in. Then the next little bit, and then the busload of fucking Arabs or whatever gets jammed into your house, and you're going, how the hell did this happen?
So if you're sitting there...
And you can trace it back to when you're not standing up now telling them to fuck off. This is what's going to happen, and when it happens, I'm sorry, I'll be so out of sympathy for everybody. I'm just going to be going, you guys were all so convinced these pricks were there to look after you. They're not. They are going to take everything you own. The World Economic Forum back
up the truck. I don't think the government have taken into account the human nature element of it. Now, as has been demonstrated with the cigarettes, there's a certain point where everyone turns around and goes,
look, we watched COVID was an excellent example. And
yes, but that was quite the opposite reaction. Like I say, the cigarette thing is pretty blatant, where people have turned around and said, we're not paying that exorbitant price. We're going to buy black market smokers.
And nobody has gone to Joe the smoker's house yet and arrested him, dragged him out by gunpoint.
No.
For having said illegal cigarettes. Now, that'll come. That's coming. That'll be here soon.
Well,
strap yourselves in.
Well, when that starts to happen, and you've got a bunch of very cranky addicts who aren't getting their fix,
you've got more faith in them rebelling than what I do.
Well, no, but this is the first stage of the rebellion. We've got people who are living homeless at the moment. When there's enough of those people and they get together, they're going to be really pissed off. They're not going to have a smoke. They're going to be edgy and antsy.
Oh, they're going to be very edgy and antsy. But again, they've got no guns. There's no organisation.
Mate,
they're all over the shop.
You don't need guns to make your point.
No, but it certainly helps. Ask the Donald how it's going with him shooting on the Californians at the moment. Now, I don't approve of him shooting people.
You don't need guns to prove your point. And it's been proven in Australia with the strict gun laws that people, if they want to inflict massive casualties on a population, they don't need guns.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you're going up against the organisation that has all of the guns...
It doesn't matter.
Oh.
That doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know. COVID sort of showed us slightly different.
No, I disagree. I'm sure...
COVID showed us that when the people with guns tell you to stay in your home and bend over and let them jab you with whatever the hell they want to jab you with, 80 to 90% of the population will do it.
And I'm telling you that if enough of those people turned around and made a stand, a lot of those people with the guns will put the guns down.
If they had have, but none of them did. They've already proved that they won't.
I think that was a experiment. I think this is the second phase of the experiment. There is no doubt. However, I think there will be a point.
I'd love there to be a point.
As I said,
I'd be very happy to support a point.
As I said, and as we import more of these people who probably don't bend to the rule of law,
no, but that's all.
This may be the undoing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not going to undo anything. It's going to give the globalists what they want.
No, the massive immigration will actually be the thing that undermines the control that the government craves.
Look at the state that the UK is in.
No. These are the people who don't worry about what it says.
No, they don't give a shit.
Yes.
And they'll be raping and pillaging quite happily.
And they're quite happy to pick up a fence.
And all of our lives, but they're not going. Why are they going to? They're not going to go anywhere near the government building. They'll be too busy robbing you for your legal smokes.
No. Look, there'll be a certain point where that shenanigans that they bring, that level of freedom and that level of free thinking, will be contagious and will be picked up by Gen Pop.
Oh no, because then you'll be participating in Sharia law and you'll be praying 5 times a day.
No, that might not be that. It might be another type. It might be a different religion. It might be something else.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is this. You've got a government that relies on compliance and sheepleness and just general good behaviour. Importing a bunch of people who don't subscribe to that.
Sure.
There'll be a point where that bites them in the arse.
But it will have bitten the rest of us first, and the country will be...
I don't know whether it will. Now, I've already starting to see some very faint signs of... No, there's conversations being had in the Northern Territory to allow citizens to have capsicum spray.
Well, I saw that.
Right. Now, that is in answer to the rampant crime that they face, and to give them some ability to defend themselves with a non-lethal deterrent.
Sure.
Okay. That's a good first step.
Yes, and I advocated for that with the Liberal Democrats for the best part of 15, 20 years.
Right. Well, okay, you just might be well ahead of the curve.
I am not disappointed that they've done that, but I do see it as a little bit too late.
Okay, it may be too late, but everything that happens is going to be too late.
The horses bolted.
Oh, I don't know whether it's completely...
I hope you're right. I'd love to be right.
I just think that there's going to be a situation where all of the people they're bringing in, it'll blow up in their face to some extent.
Oh, sure, but do they care? And I don't think they do. Once it gets to a certain point, those in those positions will be off somewhere, Geneva or one of those shitbox joints that they're all hiding out on, and they'll be over there happy as pigs in poo.
Will they? I don't know. I think
Albo's not sticking around here when this is a third world country.
No.
And we're only 5 to 10 years away from being a third world country.
Well, we're well on the way.
Absolutely, we are.
But as I said, we've already got Katter's party in Western Queensland talking about things like castle law.
Sure.
And we've got the Northern Territory government considering allowing the lawful use by citizens of capsicum spray for self-defence.
And we've got the South Australian government threatening to take people's land unlawfully. Yes. Well, they've made it lawful because we disagree with what you're doing with it.
Maybe they've got an uncle from the Territory who's going to be down that weekend who just happens to have some capsicum spray.
Well, let's hope so.
You know, and he might be able to capsicum spray.
Let's hope so. That's right. You know, like...
Anyway, like I say, it's...
capsicum spray, or we're legally allowed to take your land because what's the bureaucrat chief? Boxall's decided that your land is not being used appropriately.
Yeah,
she's decided to come in, and I don't know her, so I can give a rat's ass. But
no, but
you know, she's the biggest swinging bureaucrat in Temora.
Yes.
You know, she's decided that I want your land because you're not using it the way I deem fit. I'm taking it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And people go, oh no, she would never do it. Now maybe she directly wouldn't.
No,
but or somebody in her shoes will.
And obviously,
or an underling of hers will,
with the
and they'll bend and they'll break and they'll kiss each other's ass and they'll feather those nests until we're Venezuela. And while we're all sitting here going,
they'll be able to use the data collected by the vacant homes officer.
Oh yes, the peeping Tom, the official peeping Tom. Like,
no, it's all going to be very interesting. In the meantime, the budgets will spiral out of control. There'll be no fiscal constraint. Inflation is going to the moon.
Yeah, and there's no way to get off this roller coaster without a complete collapse. It's just a matter of being prepared for when it collapses. Where are you going to be? What situation are you going to be in? And have you got a fucking plane ticket to get the hell out of here?
Right. Okay. Now, homework from last week. So that's where we got to, and that was the thought processes that just got sparked up by the few little interactions that I've just sort of come across this week. So it's an interesting space.
Yep. Well and true.
Now, the Surf Coast, which is down around Bells Beach.
Yeah.
The start of the Great Ocean Road. You'd say central South Victoria.
Right. Yeah.
To the west of Melbourne.
Yep.
That area there have got a trial at the moment trying to ascertain whether they can have tiny homes that are a compliant tiny home up to a certain standard, but used by people in a permanent situation without needing a development application. So there'll be a consent.
So there's somebody sensible up there who's going...
Well, they've got a 2-year trial that expires mid to late 2026. They've got people who are participating in the trial. There's a few restrictions because obviously you don't want to have a situation where people can find cheap, healthy, comfortable, sustainable, cost-effective housing, for Christ's sake. You don't want that to occur all of a sudden.
No.
All of the property developers
and I was about to say,
out on the street.
And I'll say, do you know what will happen?
Yes.
3 months before that trial's due to end, there'll be a race riot of some sort. There'll be some raping and pillaging. There'll be burning of said buildings.
Something go on.
And the shenanigans will be,
yes.
See, these things aren't safe. They don't work. We can't do it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's one council, and it's called Surf Coast Council.
That's lovely. Good job.
So that's one council that are actually doing something proactive in that space, and they're actually providing, as opposed to say Bega, who are coming out with the big stick first.
I'd like to take to them with a big stick too.
Well, they've got the big stick approach.
Yes.
Surf Coast have actually taken a sensible approach and gone, you know what? We can fight this and be at odds with our citizens for the next 50 years as they become unhomed. Or we can actually look at this as an alternative.
Yeah. And there are sensible ways we can deal with it.
Well, this is
the reality is Australia needs to basically go, right, stop immigration. It's done. We need a couple of years.
Everyone knows that, but that's not going to happen.
A couple of years, we go, right, done. There's no more coming into the joint.
What's going to happen is people are going to be living everywhere. They're going to be living under bridges. They're going to be living in disused factories. They're going to be living in trains that are parked up. They're going to be living in anything that
provides a shelter
over their heads, because they're not going to be able to afford to buy a home. They're not going to afford to pay rent.
And the crime rate will increase in accordance with.
I would love for the higher decision makers to have to spend 12 months living on the equivalent of Centrelink payments and paying rent, and then go back to
I'd just be happy to see them get a job
and then make some decisions.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
No. They are so far removed from the reality of a lot of the population. They've got no concept.
Did you ever read or watch The Hunger Games? This is where it's at.
Yes.
This is where we're
that's
rapidly
exactly
heading
because
towards.
The government are quite happy to provide benefits and handouts for essential service workers, which actually puts them into competition with the
actual workers.
And that's the question. Okay, so I had this conversation with someone the other day. So if you're an auto electrician, you're not special.
Yeah.
So that's
unless you've got a job for the council or the local governing body, that makes you essential because you work for them.
Yeah. So
if you're on their gang, you're in their gang, you're essential.
Yeah.
If you're independent of the gang, the machine, well, you plebs, not needed.
So the person who bakes the bread for these people to eat, they're not essential?
No.
No.
No, not until they run out of bread.
Not until they actually start a government bakery.
Then they turn around and do that.
Then they'll be essential.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that sounds a bit cynical, but I think you're right.
Oh, mate, I think I'm beyond cynical these days. I'm looking at it and I'm going, these people are so stupid, it's not funny.
Well,
but
we've spoken about this. One way to circumvent this and just to really ride the gravy train.
I'm not going to say what I'm thinking right now because I'll get banned and I'll get arrested.
No, the thing is to go and get a job with the government.
Oh, well, look, all right.
You know what I mean? Give up your aspirations to be a
Yes, don't be self-reliant. Don't have any independence whatsoever.
Give up your aspirations to do something productive and generate your own income and
just go and get one of those safe, secure monkey feed jobs and
just put the napkin on.
And you're secure until
it
all runs out. Yeah,
get up the front of the gravy train and just ride it all the way into the station.
Mate, the amount of phone conversations, the amount of conversations I've had this week, just with people who are all similarly minded, all who just want to run their own race and not be raped and taxed and obliterated and pillaged and violated.
I think as these things occur, I think there's going to be a community that will emerge of those people who will at least provide support for each other. And I've noticed throughout the COVID era that over a period of time, there was a group of people who emerged who were able to be strong enough to offer support to others.
Yeah.
And to create a community and support each other. Sure. And I thought that was one of the most satisfying and positive things I saw out of the whole event, was to see this group of people come forward and show terrific strength in the face of such adversity, and particularly being vilified and picked on and singled out by
the biggest bullies on planet Earth,
by the whole media, the whole
government,
mainstream media, and they were just painted as the lunatic fringe.
Absolutely.
And to see these sensible people come through now, the amount of people I've spoken to, I spoke to a guy on the weekend who's had a couple of heart attacks in the last 3 years. He'd had some pre-existing heart problems, but he'd had some surgery 8 to 10 years ago that had basically wrapped up those issues.
Yeah.
And he said the first heart attack that he had recently was after he'd had one of the jabs.
Yeah.
And he said, now, I can't find anyone who will give me any proof to that effect. He said,
of course not.
But he said, but all of my previous issues had been rectified and I was well and I'd had surgery and it had been ameliorated.
Yeah.
And along comes the jab and next minute,
he's back on his ass.
In the last 3 years, my heart stopped twice.
Yeah. And there's stories of these all over the joint.
And there are other things emerging.
And we've noted, I don't know if you've noticed, but our government has just very recently said that the COVID jabs are not good for kids. We don't recommend children having them. After you fucking bullied delusional parents for that 5-year period into demanding that their children were jabbed with this shit.
Yes, I know, that's just
crazy. And there were the zealoty parents who raced out and did it because the two idiots on the TV told them to. And then there were the idiot parents who were just scared. And then there were the people.
Some people got their health advice off the cash cow.
Oh, fuck, without a doubt.
Sunrise, cash cow.
Yeah.
What should I do, cash cow?
Or the fat billionaire who can't keep viruses out of my fucking computer. Apparently you want to know what he thinks about getting your jab. Yeah. Like, fuck off.
No, it's pretty sad. Anyway, like I say, there were some positives. There are some positives, and I still see that there is a community there. And I think that there's people that you're talking to will connect.
Oh, look.
It's just these people will find each other, and there will become a community of like-minded people who will support each other, who will offer each other the means to exist, and they will weather pretty much any storm. These are tough people.
Yeah, for sure.
So, that was one of the great outcomes of the COVID pandemic that I saw, and I was really impressed with. I was disappointed that there wasn't
the carnage that's going to come though in the next wave of what's happening in my head, which is just an analysis of what's happening in the country mixed in with a little bit of, I don't know, studying history. COVID had or provided something in that circumstance that the inevitable collapse of, when the NDIS collapses, when the government works out there is no fucking money left, and every well has been drained, and every well is dry.
Every
taxpayer is, yeah, that's right. What won't be available that was available through COVID is massive cash handouts that kept people going, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I can stay at home because I'll be able to get by with these little cash handouts. That's not going to be there because the money's going to be worth nothing.
No, but in the meantime, there's a lot of people who are setting up alternative food production sources, other means of survival.
But all you have to do is look at the voting history of Australia, and it's a very, very big gap between what happens over this side of the mountains and what's going to go on where the most populous. So the 50 people that you're talking to, oh yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. It's great, absolutely wonderful.
And that's partly what I'm talking about.
But let me tell you, when the 5 million people in Sydney work out there's no fucking food, and they've got no money, and the government's taken their houses, that's not going to end well.
Well, what are they going to do?
They're going to absolutely turn on each other. They're going to fucking rape, pillage, and murder.
That's right.
And it's going to be survival of the fittest.
And there's going to be a glow over the Great Dividing Range that we can see from here.
Oh.
But they're not going to be able to come and take any of our stuff because they won't have any fuel.
They'll run out of fuel pretty quick. Yes.
That's what I mean. They won't have enough fuel. They won't have enough fuel to get past Penrith.
But it's coming.
And they're electric vehicles.
But don't think that it won't happen here, because we're going to run out of fuel too.
Yes, but I think
we're going to run out of food too. We're going to be a little bit more self-sufficient. To be like the Nationals staying in power as much as they did through the last election.
I think
we're just that little bit more advanced in the self-sustaining area that will last a little bit longer. The Nationals are lasting longer. They're not better. They're going to get there as well. Actually, I've got a very good friend who's actually gone up to.
I think the people over this side of the hills have got a fair idea how to grow something to eat, how to harvest something off the natural environment, and to take care of themselves a little bit more. I think they understand where their food comes from.
No, I think you're right on the whole, but I also think that
there's also a massive amount of bloat
when the infrastructure comes crashing down. And I mean crashing. If you look at Venezuela's the perfect.
Yeah.
You can look at Argentina as well, because Argentina's been through it. They're on the absolute up now. So until somebody assassinates Milei, who's on fire over there, everything he touches turning to gold.
Yes, but you see that, but then Trump's facing some resistance, and there are some hurdles for him. He hasn't ticked.
Trump fucked up with that big beautiful bullshit bill.
Yes, but also the fact that he hasn't finished the Ukraine war. He hasn't finished.
He's failed to achieve a couple of things he was going to achieve.
There's a couple of big boxes he has not ticked.
Absolutely.
And he needs to start ticking some boxes.
He needs to get them done. Yes, he does, 100%.
So
there's some stuff he's done that
I was really excited because I thought he might have been able to back up his bullshit.
Well, I thought he had a pretty good shot. I made it very clear.
There's a bit of a beat up with the tiff between him and Elon, because there's no way knowing Trump is going to stay out of love with the richest man in the world.
Well, and to be fair, I'm sure some of it was a bit of a ploy and a bit of a distraction. There's an element of chances.
There's a bit of showbiz involved.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Don't forget, Donald Trump was in WWE for a little while. Like, he understands the whole setup.
He did The Apprentice. He did
The Apprentice as well. Like, that's exactly right.
No. So anyway, so that's where that's at. So the homework was councils doing tiny homes. So some of them are actually doing something proactive. So we've got a council officer looking in windows, and we've got other councils that are actually looking into how they can house the people.
Oh, fucking council officers looking in windows. Okay. Please come and look in my window, please.
Okay, so that's that. Now,
Did you see anything on the news about our new agency, the Australian government?
Yeah.
Net Zero Economy Authority.
Yes.
Well, I suppose it's easy to have a net zero economy when you've destroyed the fucking economy. It will be a net zero economy.
There'll be net zero money left.
Won't be fucking net zero emissions. It'll be a net $0. But they've changed the wording from a net zero economy agency to the net zero economy authority.
Yeah.
Shove your authority, fair up your ass. Thank you. I don't care about your green dreams. Oh, I got a power bill today, or a notification my power bill's going up. And the dumbasses on Twitter, oh, well, you need solar panels. Oh, guess what, Anthony, as you're well aware, I have solar panels, and the volume of rebate, whatever the hell they call it for that, has decreased. All the other numbers went up. Oh, what a shock. Colour be shocked. This green dream is going to be another.
So what you need to do in order to start save money is you need to spend a shit ton of money on batteries now.
Yes.
So you can save money.
What they work out
And
today,
then-
I saw a tweet today that they want us to Australians to spend 33 billion on batteries to save 4 billion in energy costs. These people can't do kindergarten math.
No.
Chris Bowen's got to be the dumbest fuck on planet Earth.
I know.
And not only is he an elected official, he's in charge of some shit.
No, it's.
And we're patting them on the head and we're letting it go. And, okay, yes, you and I know 50 people that are all thinking this is
people
bullshit.
Run out of power and they're really cold, they'll probably burn politicians.
They will, and it's going to be too late. And, of course, I'll be sitting there laughing my ass off, going, self-inflicted by then, I'm not going to care.
No,
but
I don't care in that space, really, because I can't influence it. I can just sit here and observe it and just position myself as best I can to weather the storm.
The fact that as big a useless, spastic politician, dickhead, corrupt, communist fuck as Scott Morrison can get an award from the Queen.
No, the King.
Same thing.
But I consider that probably one of the biggest acts of gaslighting that I've witnessed throughout the whole COVID experience.
All those dickheads that performed that shit all got their awards.
I
got
think
their little private
worse would give Dan Andrews a Knightle or something.
That's coming.
Yeah.
They're giving him a statue, aren't they? Because he's fucking amazing.
Yeah, he saved them.
He needs to be pushed down another flight of stairs and have the shit beat at him with them golf clubs at that club that he wants to go to.
Stobo getting, what do you get? A Companion of the Order of Australia? Is it something like?
Oh, one of them. I don't know. They hand out these awards like confetti.
But it was one of the higher ones. It devalues the award that may have been.
I didn't think any of them, awards had much value anyway, to be honest with you. But, like, to give that spastic an award after everything he has done and proven to be one of the most corrupt, dishonest shit for brains on planet Earth in recent memory. And
the Sydney Morning Herald 3 days ago led with a headline. Morrison's award makes a mockery of King's birthday honours. Well, I have to agree.
They were a mockery to start with. They've been a mockery of hard-working, productive, useful people for years.
Yeah. That'd be right. I haven't got a subscription to that. They're not going to let me read it.
No, they're not going to let you read it. You've got to pay your money to fucking Rupert or whoever owns that one.
Companion of the Order of Australia for his eminent service to the country, making himself captain of everything and putting in place things that we still don't know about.
Yes.
Thanks, ScoMo.
And basically saying to abdicating all responsibility for the whole COVID thing, going, it's up to the premiers to sort this out. I'm not in charge.
Yeah, no.
I'm not the boss here.
Not there.
Fucking dead shit. Did you see that reporter got shot in the ass with a bloody rubber bullet?
Over in the States and Australia.
Yeah, then our mate Albo lied about it. He said, well, she was clearly identified in media gear and a helmet and all this shit. So you could see it live on every TV station in Australia for the day that she wasn't wearing any of that. You lying dickhead, Anthony.
Well, you can't lie.
Albo, I mean, not as in you.
In today's world, it's very difficult to lie because there's so much access to the evidence to the contrary.
You've got to be very good at lying and very creepy and very sneaky.
But even then, more often than not, exposure's only just seconds away. The easiest route to take is the honest route.
I've always found that to be well. Look, it's easier in some ways.
No, it's just easiest. It is easiest, full stop.
You know, it's hard from the perspective of doesn't always make you popular.
No, that's okay. Popularity,
you know, it doesn't always mean that people are going to be overly.
Yeah,
but not, you know,
popularity is nice, but
a lot of people. A lot of people want to, you know, people to, you know, oh, hey, how are you? So nice to see you. I know that 80% of the people who say that to me are full of shit, and they're only saying it because they don't want me to call them out on it. You know, they aren't happy to see me. I'm there, and they're going to have to deal with it. You're going, fuck, you know, and I get it. I get it, but I'm gonna tell you that you got a bit of shit on your tooth. If you got a bit of shit on your tooth, not to take the piss out of you, just so you can go and sort that out. Because you know, other people are going to let you wander around with it all day. You know?
Yeah. There's some interesting developments.
Oh fuck! I don't like the looks of this. What are these tards up to now?
Well, the Office of Local Government.
Haven't they been disbanded yet? Fed to the wolves?
Have come out with a guideline in the council circulars.
Oh, good. All with all this Aboriginal painting shit all over their
Department of Planning, Housing and Infrastructure. Free speech in local government in New South Wales. A guideline, June.
Here's the thing about free speech. You can't have a guideline for free speech.
What's the date today?
Yeah, June
2025.
Yeah, right.
This is fresh. You can smell it. This came out on the 3rd of June. It is now the 12th. This is 9 days old.
That's lovely.
Now, there are some really interesting things in this. Now, this is an 18-page guideline.
Oh, God.
That's been put out by the Office of Local Government in the absence of the new Code of Conduct framework.
Right.
Which, as we know, we've been cheerleading for Mr. Honig to bring forward as soon as possible. Do something, Ron? Yeah, he's been talking about this for a long time. First published June 2025. This is fresh.
Fucking hell.
Okay, so let's look at the headlines. Introduction. How is free speech regulated in Australia? Why is free speech important in New South Wales local government? Why is making public comment an important part of a councillor's role? How does the Model Code of Conduct apply? What comment falls within the regulation? Blah, blah, blah. How should council? Anyway, for the people who always want to skip to the end, they've actually boxed up the key takeaways. I think they knew that everyone wasn't going to read it all.
Oh, they do that with every government document. There's only a few psychos with enough tolerance to digest this shit in its entirety.
Appendix 1, the key takeaways. Let's have a look at the key takeaways. Now, this is one that we've spoken about before, isn't it? The Australian Constitution implies a freedom of political communication essential for informed democratic participation.
The only word that I take issue with is the implies, and I don't take issue that it's there. It should be enshrined.
Now, it says this is not a personal right, but a limit on government power to restrict political discourse. So it's a limit on the government restricting what someone who might be a councillor might say.
You'd reckon so.
On social media or in the public, in the newspapers, or when asked by a reporter or asked by a member of the public.
Yes.
That a councillor might be able to express their opinion.
You'd reckon so, wouldn't you?
So this limits government power to restrict that.
Well, that's as it should.
As it should.
Restrictions are only valid if they are appropriate and serve a legitimate democratic end.
Now I agree with that statement.
Well, now my issue with that statement is who decides.
Well, that's going to be the next phase.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Local democracy. Now, this is a statement coming from the Office of Local Government.
Yeah.
Local democracy empowers communities to influence decisions about their future by electing representatives to local council. Well, at the moment, all I can see is that local councils are run by bureaucrats and the councillors are barely tolerated if they behave.
Yes.
And if they do something that calls into question anything the bureaucrats might be doing or saying,
it's time for a code of conduct.
They actually use the code of conduct maliciously and vexatiously
Oh.
to silence said unruly conduct.
Yes, you councillors need to do as you're told.
Now,
who elected you, boss? Hang on, the people.
Key takeaway. Public comment, including through media and social media, is central to fulfilling a councillor's role under the Local Government Act. Heaven forbid.
There you go. So all the local councillors should now be posting regularly on their interwebs.
The model code of conduct is aligned with the implied freedom of political communication. Well, that's wonderful.
Excellent. Happy days.
While councillors must comply with the code of conduct when commenting public, council should not, hold that thought, council should not apply their code of conduct in a way that impedes councillors' ability to engage with the community. Hello, everybody. Or to participate in robust public debate.
Be careful, Councillor Irvine.
Be very careful. The people might know what's going on.
Yes, fuck.
Councillors should refrain from engaging in personal attacks on others when commenting publicly. Fair call.
That's fair, yeah.
However, it is acceptable and appropriate for them to disagree with their council, other council officials, and members of the community when, heaven forbid.
Look at this.
Heaven forbid.
So what are these guys at the OLG tired of getting, grenades thrown at them by councillors such as yourself and all the guys?
I've got some examples I'm going to show you in a little
while. Good.
Of people who have been getting absolutely baseball battered with these codes of conduct, and it's basically affecting their ability to even perform their role as a council.
Doesn't surprise me.
And it's been weaponised to an extent that the Office of Local Government have said, cut it out.
Well, let's be fair.
Now, how is that going to sit with the Office of Local Government when they've got other people that they want to actually remove from the system?
Yes, well, that's right.
They're using the code of conduct to do so.
Yeah, well, corruption feeds corruption.
Well, we don't know. We're going to have to see how all that unfolds.
I'll call that an educated guess. How's that?
So, the model code of conduct only applies to behaviour related to a councillor's official role, not their private actions. So, if I was to do something that some of the people in the community didn't particularly think was acceptable, but it was unrelated to my council business,
yes,
then it's none of their business.
Correct.
I can be a private citizen and do my own private things. It's only when I'm acting as a councillor that this code of conduct
in the ballpark
may apply. Now, conflict of interest. This is always a very interesting part. Expressing your view or being affiliated with an advocacy group does not automatically create a conflict of interest. A conflict only arises if there is a material interest involved or a close personal relationship with someone who has one. Now, this is an interesting point. Councillors must avoid prejudging matters which could lead to legal challenges for bias. Now, I agree with that. So if you go in to council saying, I will never allow such and such to happen ever over my dead body, and all of a sudden you get into council and a set of circumstances develop whereby that's probably the right thing to do and actually change your mind. If you don't change your mind, and if you...
Well, prejudging matters, that would depend, I would say.
But
depending on the...
Coming back to that, I'll give you an example of some training that I received only just last year after I was elected for a second term on Temora Shire Council. Now, this was what I was told. A councillor who got elected up around Sutherland or somewhere in Sydney had campaigned against a road being put through a certain area.
Yeah.
And they had strong arguments for that. And they had a very strong opinion on it.
Yep. And that was the basis with which they would have been
That was the basis with
elected.
which they were elected, and that's what platform they ran on.
Let's guess. They got into the room, changed their mind.
And then this individual who was delivering the training said, now that person has to abandon that and they can't. And I said,
like fuck.
That's why they're elected.
Yes.
That's why the people want them there.
They were elected by enough people to get them onto that committee,
Yes.
onto that board, onto that show. And let's be fair,
Yes.
council's just a glorified committee. It's nothing special.
But you can't. You've got to give people, and I'll tell you how you preface this. You say, with the evidence before me at the moment and everything I understand about this matter, I believe this to be the case. And at the moment, my preference is for this to occur this way.
If I got on council and all this time I've been banging on about reducing rates, cutting costs. If I then turned around and voted at any stage to increase spending for anything, I'd be the world's biggest fucking hypocrite.
No. You can sit there and you can say, look, my whole platform is to reduce expenditure. However, here's some expenditure that I believe will be detrimental to the community if we reduce it. My
answer would be we need to find somewhere to cut to be able to fund said.
That's right. No, that's okay.
And until we cut, I don't know, mowing the fucking football paddock.
That's okay.
To pay for the
you can take that position.
That would be the only way, you know.
But like I say, you can't just say blanket no.
Oh yeah, you can.
No, you can't. This is the thing, you can't, because then it's challengeable in court.
Oh, well, that's fine. Why don't you say no? Because I ran on a platform of I'm not voting for that shit. Thank you, Your Honour.
Anyway, like I say, so you've got to avoid prejudging it. So you can't make your decision prior to the vote, but you can certainly have an opinion and you can argue a position.
Well, I should think so, at the very least. At the very least, I would think that would be.
It goes on to talk about defamation, what privileges apply to councillors, and there's very few. There are some privileges that we have in discussions in meetings and stuff.
Well, you get to wear fancy jewellery.
No. I'm talking about in terms of our opinion.
Oh, right.
Media and social media. Now, this will be fairly pertinent for the people watching on social media. Council media and social media policies should not operate in a way that constrains councillors' ability to freely engage with the community via the media or online. Hello, community. Councillors should be free to express personal views, but must not claim to speak for the council unless authorised. Well, what do I say at the start of every show?
No, we've been on this.
I'm a councillor. I don't shirk that responsibility. I know I'm a councillor, but I was there when I got elected. I'm not speaking for council on this show. Now, I say that every week.
Every week.
I hope everyone understands that. That's what this bit means. Not claim to speak for the council unless authorised.
The authorised word makes me want to vomit.
Accurately represent council decisions. I always try to accurately represent council decisions, and I always try to read from the council paperwork when I'm doing so.
You do.
I go to great lengths.
Oh, I know.
To do that.
Absolutely, I know.
Avoid disclosing confidential information. Now, this is an interesting spot because we've had a lot of information that the council wanted to be confidential, but turned out that actually it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And when exposed to the powers of the Government Information Public Access Act,
it wasn't.
Council's defences collapsed.
Yes, funny that.
Now, we've still got some residual matters outstanding with a deed of employment with our past General Manager, Mr. Lavelle.
The co-General Manager?
Well, I don't know that because I don't know what his employment status is today.
Well, you could have a look at the pay records.
No, we can't access that.
Oh, you guys don't even look at that?
No.
Oh, I'd be expecting.
The only person who's reported on their income as a staff member is the General Manager, and we don't even get to see a list of staff. We don't even get to know who is employed by our council.
Yeah, right.
Particularly an ex-General Manager who's on somewhat of a unusual.
I'll say that. It seemed unusual to me when I first heard about it. It seemed very unusual.
So, council, anyway, this avoid disclosing, well, I've always avoided disclosing confidential, although I've been accused of disclosing confidential information. There's never been a charge upheld in that space.
No, I'm not surprised.
And
I think they forget how much we think about this shit when we do this shit.
I think they forget about the fact that, like, even to the point that I put in a GIPA request about my codes of conduct so that I could talk about them publicly.
Pardon me, yeah.
And council didn't object to that. Now, council should not require councillors to seek staff approval before commenting publicly.
No, they shouldn't.
No.
Why in the hell would you need approval from the staff?
Because we're grown-ups.
Yeah, well, and there's a hierarchy there, allegedly. And councillors are elected by the people. The staff are there to do the job.
Yes.
Empty the bins, mow them parks. You're doing great, by the way. Some of these parks look fantastic.
But I can't talk to the staff. The only person I can talk to as a councillor is the general manager. I can't talk to anyone else.
Yeah, right.
It was interesting. I was in a meeting the other day and we're talking about the council offices.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I can't go down the other end of this building. And they said, what? I said, no, I can go in the chamber. I can go in the council chamber and the rooms at that end of the building.
Right.
I can't go in to the office section, the bureaucrat section, the council staff section.
Right. I wouldn't mind betting most councillors do.
I can go in if I'm invited, or I can go in if I'm having a meeting with an individual.
Yeah.
But I just can't tap on the door and they can say, oh, come in, do you want a cup of coffee? No.
Yeah, right.
No, I can't fraternise.
Can't fraternise. Fuck. The world's so broken.
That's how it is. But hey, I've got no problem with that.
I get it, but it's the world's broken when that's the circumstance. Christ.
So that's pretty rad. Now the one thing that makes me sad, because I know how much I believe I've had the code of conduct weaponised against me.
Yeah.
With frivolous and vexatious actions designed to distract me from doing my job and stop me from actually representing on behalf of the people.
Yes.
And asking the questions that need to be asked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a lady
in mine too.
There's a lady at Bathurst. Who's a councillor at Bathurst.
Right. I must be getting old, mate. I'm telling you. Those 4 a.m. starts are starting to slow me down.
Now,
there's a councillor.
Yes. Now, here's a page here.
Sophie Wright, councillor. I better have a look.
Now, here's an official statement. So, this is current. I'm on Facebook now. This is Councillor Sophie Wright's social media page. And this is an official statement that she released on the 29th of May. So that's only 13 days ago, 14 days ago, 2 weeks. Sophie states, over the past week, I've received a number of messages from community members seeking clarity about what happened with Council West motion at the May Council meeting. In light of that, and in response to recent online commentary, I've decided to release this official statement. Let's hope this ends the matter. So it's all about some procedural stuff at council.
Colour me shocked that there'd be procedural stuff at council.
Now, when we actually look into it, Councillor West submitted a notice of motion raising concerns about excessive information requests from councillors. The motion and its accompanying report made broad claims about cost, staff well-being and councillor conduct, but did not contain any supporting evidence or attachments.
Fuck.
Now,
that sounds awfully familiar.
Sophie Wright, God love her, says in her statement, in response, prior to the meeting, I took the unusual but appropriate step of providing Councillor West with my express written permission to read aloud any email I've sent to council staff that she believed might support her position. I also encouraged her to bring a list of specific questions or correspondence that could substantiate her case. No such evidence was provided.
So
Instead, just moments before debate began, Councillor West withdrew the core of her motion. Okay. So clearly,
they all play the same playbook. These communist dickheads. It's not that difficult to read. They all do the same 5 tricks.
The bigger picture, and this is reading directly from Councillor Sophie Wright's statement. At its core, this was never just about one motion. This was about whether Bathurst councillors should be free to ask questions, especially on matters involving millions of dollars in ratepayers' funds and taxpayer-funded grants, critical land sales, decisions of executive staff, and ultimately our financial future. These questions are not hostile or interrogative. They are part of the job we were elected to do.
Oh, look, Sophie, already.
Here, Sophie.
Good job. She's all right.
Sophie for Prime Minister.
I haven't come across her yet. That's very unusual.
Sophie for Prime Minister. Anyway, Sophie is the unfortunate recipient.
How many has she got?
Shit tons.
Now, how many shit tons? I've got to have a number here.
I've got a statement here from a news article that someone sent me, and it's only on my mobile phone, and I can't find. Or did I? Did I find that statement? Hang on, let me find it. History. Let me find this. You got to ad lib. I need you to do your comedy routine, whatever. Let me find this because it's real. I'm
just brushing up on my Bathurst Shire Council stuff. It's pretty wild.
But it's the same story.
It's the same story all around the countryside.
It's the play.
And anybody who pokes their head up and actually has a bit of a genuine go on behalf of ratepayers, and that doesn't mean, in a nasty way. It just means they're asking these questions because these things actually fucking matter. And
yes,
as soon as you start asking questions of the communist machine, they get very uncomfortable because they are parasitic.
Because they're being paid to run the council, but if they're not running it properly, they get nervous.
And even if they're making genuine mistakes, it doesn't matter. It's because the machine is designed for it to be a disaster. These councils will always go broke. These governments are always going to head down that way. The socialism's too strong. It can't be defeated. And nowhere on earth has it ever been done successfully. Yeah. And the stupid argument is always, well, it wasn't done right that time. All that time Pol Pot tried it, he wasn't the right man for the job. I would have been a benevolent dictator and done it far better. And I would have done socialism correctly. And
yes. Yeah, I understand.
It's fucking nonsense.
I'm just trying to find a bloody this article's hidden behind all these paywalls.
Of course it is.
I've only got access to one version of it. It's on my mobile phone, so I can't actually put it up on the screen. But this is the article. Here it is. Here. 6 months of hell. Review to sort vexatious council complaints from misconduct.
Yeah.
So local councillors could be penalised for making vexatious complaints about their colleagues in an attempt to drive down grievance reports to the state government regulator. Well, thank heavens. Because I'm telling you, I think I've told you before, but I'm the only person in Temora Shire ever to have a single code of conduct complaint against them.
I know, right? That's exciting.
And I'm racking them and stacking them.
That's exciting. I'm very proud. I feel like proud then.
Yeah. Why would that be? Now, the impending suspension of Snowy Monero Regional Councillor Andrew Thaler.
Oh, yes.
This article was released on May 9th, so that impending suspension has taken place.
Yes.
So
3 months. Suspended.
He is suspended for 3 months, but he's actually appearing at the NCAT matter's been held over till the 24th of June.
Yep.
So it'll be back in NCAT on the 24th. Now, the impending suspension of Snowy Monero Regional Councillor Andrew Thaler for 3 months over comments made on social media was a hot topic.
A hot topic
at the local government New South Wales Rural and Regional Summit held in Sydney on May 8th. Now, I'm going to do some homework in a minute. I'll be with you. One of the targets, now, there's a bit of a hit job on this because there's a couple of sides to this coin. And as we know, Mr. Thaler has been attacked on a number of media fronts.
Yes.
And
Ben Fordham called him a dickhead at one stage.
But even to the point where he's been called a lot of things by a lot of people, but as soon as he says something back to someone,
they file a complaint and there's a boo-hoo and there's a big, absolutely.
So there seems to be a bit of a double standard applying.
There's a massive double standard applying to anything Andrew Thaler does.
So,
or says.
Now, and he doesn't pull any punches, so he does draw a bit of
fire. He fires off harder than I do at anybody.
So this is the next statement. One of the targets within this article, and it's from Australian Consolidated Media, I think ACM, but it's just a different publication that I've actually got access to.
Yep.
One of the targets of Mr. Thaler's online comments, Tanya Higgins, who is a councillor on Snowy Monero Regional Council.
Yep.
Tanya Higgins thanked the Office of Local Government for its response to the conduct, which also requires Mr. Thaler to apologise for his actions. She says, she was at this conference in Sydney when she thanked the Office of Local Government for its response. And she goes on to say at this conference, "We've gone through 6 months of hell," she told Local Government Deputy Secretary Mr. Brett Whitworth from the floor of the conference. So she stood up and said, "We've gone through 6 months of hell. I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, but I'm a woman in local government who has felt unsafe, unable to do my job the way I should be able to do it, and that is not right." That was her statement. This hasn't been for nothing. Now, the article goes on to state, Mr. Thaler was reported in Sydney media as calling Miss Higgins a fat, dumb blonde in a March 5 video. In a local...
I don't know how dumb she may or may not be, and I can't see a photo of her, so I'll just have to assume that she may possibly be blonde.
She may possibly be
fat.
And
it's also possible she's not real bright. I don't know.
There's a possibility of all those things being true.
There is very much a possibility.
It could be a factual observation.
It could be. Could very much be.
It may or may not.
Now, it may not be a nice factual, Some people say that I'm not the prettiest man in Australia at times. I've even been called fat. I mean, I'm not hugely fat, but I am touch overweight. And some would even call me dumb. Others would call me fucking different. Yet I'm not offended.
No. You just sort of take that in your stride.
I laugh my ass off.
And anyone who sticks their hat in the ring to be on
in the public space, any public space,
will face certain criticisms and certain personal attacks.
If you are...
Anyway, on we go into this article. This is the part where we talk about Sophie Wright, and this is where we'll get to the nub of that. In a local interview published on YouTube on May 9th, Mr. Thaler doubled down. I don't believe it.
No, not our Andrew.
Yes. In quotation marks, Mr. Thaler is quoted as saying, "I called a fat councillor a fat liar." Close quotation marks. He said in the interview, which he also linked to from his own social media with the text, "I'm sorry." He goes on to say, "I use the word as an intensive and play on words," he said in the video. But Ms. Higgins also wanted to know if the Snowy Monero experience would influence the ongoing review of the Councillor Code of Conduct, which we've just seen some evidence of. "I would like some assurances that this hasn't been for nothing," she said. "I know your team have been working really hard, and I just hope there's time for this to be brought into that reform process." So she's really playing up to Mr. Whitworth and how hard he works and the
Oh.
team aspect of it, because they're all a team
We're all in this
fighting
together.
against the evil of Mr. Thaler.
Yes, no doubt.
That's my interpretation. It's only an observation. Thaler to fight suspension. Mr. Thaler said he would be fighting the suspension due to start later this month. Well, that fight is well and truly on, and Mr. Thaler is tooled up.
He does tend to do that, our Andrew.
Yep. So anyway, that'll be interesting. I can't wait to see the outcome of that. I wish him all the best, but I hope he gets a fair hearing.
Now, when
he goes on to say, no, of course it's not fair. It's a load of shit, and I'll be fighting it. He told ACM, the publisher of this masthead. He accused Miss Higgins of calling him the ugliest man alive a number of years ago. Now,
ouch.
He called her a dumb fat blonde. She's called him the ugliest man alive.
It's just Jerry Springer.
Are we
Jerry?
Or are we?
Fucking.
Anyway, penalties for vexatious complaints. Meanwhile, Mr. Whitworth, the Deputy Secretary of the Office of Local Government, said he hoped to establish a system in which bad behaviour concerns were sent to a Privileges Committee to be judged by a panel of peers, and alleged serious misconduct was investigated by his office. So to draft off the low-level complaints so that they don't take up the valuable time of his office and staff. And I've got...
there's an argument for don't waste my time. Fuck off.
Yeah, don't waste my time.
I'm busy. I got shit to do.
Yes, but to that end, I believe in some of the matters that I've had taken against me, that's exactly what's occurred. And then when I go to point that out to the Office of Local Government,
be off with you. That
side of the equation is ignored. So Mr. Whitworth tends to be saying one thing, but his office does the opposite.
Oh, no.
Well, that's my experience. The review was also examining how to reduce unfounded complaints without jeopardising freedom of political communication. Now, I like that.
That's nice. I like that's warm.
He goes on to say, but we'll also need to look at what are the incentives to prevent people from making vexatious complaints. Incentives.
Oh.
He told councillors gathered at the State Library of New South Wales, well, incentives is one way to put it, or deterrence.
Deterrence, incentives, I'd rather be incentivised than deterred.
But what's the incentive to prevent people from making a vexatious complaint?
Well,
what do you get $100 if you don't make a complaint?
Yeah, well, that's right.
But if you said a deterrent would be, if you make a vexatious complaint and we deem it to be a vexatious complaint, you're going to bear the cost of all of the bullshit involved with it.
Well,
it could be $15,000.
Yes.
Are you up for it?
How committed to this? And it has to be your money.
Yes.
Your personal money.
Yes.
Not the ratepayers.
Yes, or the taxpayers.
Well, whichever,
But it's the same people. Yeah. Same camel.
Same. Yes.
Very bad back.
Yes.
Same bad back camel.
Only so much. With
lots of straw on it. Now, Mr. Whitworth goes on to say, the Minister has also asked me to look at whether there are powers that I already have under the Local Government Act to actually take action against councillors that are making vexatious complaints against other councillors. Mate, if you wanted to, you could stop it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, of course.
If someone makes a stupid complaint, Brett, get on the phone and say, oi, it's stupid.
This is the dumbest thing I've heard all week.
It's a stupid complaint.
I don't care that you started your sentence with as a woman or as an Indigenous person or as a transgendered monkey,
yes,
as a human being, as a whatever, right? It's still fucking stupid. And every time that when she writes in there, as a woman, I'm not a whatever, but I am a woman.
Yes.
I don't give a fuck.
No,
I do not care. That's
councillor
right. You wanted equal rights. Yes. You wanted all that shit. You get paid the same as, you get paid. It's all bullshit in this. As a woman,
if this councillor has previously called Mr. Thaler the ugliest man alive, and he throws back a bit of mud because he's got some mud coming his way. He's got mud to pick up and throw back.
That's fine. Yeah. But you can't give it and not take it. And again, if you're in the public sphere, people going to call your names.
Back on the track.
Fucking throw a few of these people in front of the train that's going on the track.
The next headline is stopping the haters.
Goodness.
Now, this is where we get into Sophie. At the Rural and Regional Councillor Summit, which I didn't get a ticket to, unfortunately.
How come?
Don't know. Not welcome.
Not welcome. That's a bit rough.
Lithgow councillor Elizabeth Fredericks pointed to the case of Bathurst colleague Sophie Wright, who told the Western Advocate in April she had so many code of conduct complaints against her, she had to withdraw from committees to find the time to respond to them all. Now, Sophie seems like
reasonably sensible sort of a Sheila from
and if she's got to stop doing her council work to deal with these...
as a woman, she seems quite sensible.
Now, haters were using the code of conduct to harass councillors, Miss Frederick said. Well, I can understand that occurring.
No doubt.
I really can.
Not a doubt in the wide world.
When it comes to councillor code of conduct complaints, a lot of them are being used as another form to continue to harass and intimidate councillors.
Well, that's
especially when there are councillors that are going out of their way to block their haters, she said.
There is a massive element of this sort of shit is designed for intimidation purposes, no doubt.
She goes on to say, if you want us to be a third level government, you need to start giving us the protection that the other two have. So any reforms also needed to protect people's right to free communication, Mr. Whitworth said. Well, I hope he does protect that right, because we're communicating freely tonight, and I hope everyone's enjoying this free communication.
Free communication.
The local government minister, Ron Honig, yay, Ron.
He's got a bit of work to do, a bit like the old Donald. They're both underperforming as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, he's set some lofty goals.
Yes, and I'm all for lofty goals, but you've got to work towards them.
Has also asked me to try and better define how that implied freedom of political communication can be understood and expressed and applied, he said. Well, I think this most recent release from the OLG on the 3rd of June, following up from this 5th of May conference, is the first step in that direction.
I thought that read quite positively.
Yes. And so, make of that what you will, freedom lovers.
Mr.
Thaler is in the battle of his life. It's an all-consuming battle, and he is completely outgunned by the power and the might of the New South Wales government at large, with their unlimited budgets and time.
Well, and effectively, to a degree, he'd be going up against the National Party, the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, and all the
rest
bits and bobs in the middle. So, you know, it's quite a lofty Goliath that he's up against at the moment.
He is up against a massive Goliath, and I just hope he gets the chance to swing his little
stone and hit him in the head,
and at least get a shot away.
Absolutely.
And where it lands, it'll land. But yeah, like I say, it's a very uneven match when you are faced with these type of accusations from an opponent who has got a situation where if a council brings a code of conduct against a councillor, then the council staff members tasked with working on the preparation and presentation of this code of conduct, the gathering of evidence and the writing of submissions, are paid for every second of time they spend on that. If they want to get any legal advice or any assistance in that all those invoices are met, none of it comes out of their own pocket. And at the end of the day on a Friday, they get their pay packet weighs the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hefty.
Oh, it's lovely, yes.
Now, for the individual who's been accused...
Far superior to that of the average punter out there working for
absolutely, a living. That's at the start point. But then you've got the average punter who then has to actually forego earning any money because they have to then write submissions in defence of their position and then go and access any legal advice and pay for that out of their own pocket. So not only are they not making income, they're actually incurring personal costs.
Oh, well and truly.
So the unevenness is so blatantly obvious, even at that level.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so these people are attacked. They have to defend themselves. All of the resources in that defence have to be borne by themselves, yet their attackers have all of their costs met by others.
Yep.
It is the unfairest fight that I know of going round.
Yep.
So, and it's an absolute con. It is one of the most disgusting misuses of ratepayers and taxpayers' funds that I've ever witnessed, to be bullying people who are duly elected And more often than not, the biggest crime is communicating with the public as to what they're seeing in their day-to-day.
Yeah. Yes, I'm seeing things I'm not comfortable with, ladies and
Yeah, I'm
gentlemen.
seeing things that I think you should know about.
People who voted for me or didn't vote for me, but I'm seeing things that I think are probably worth you being aware of. In my role,
Yes.
Here it is.
Yes.
Don't you tell people what we're doing. It's a secret.
Yes. And certainly don't ask us to answer awkward questions. And certainly don't ever say that we're not doing our job absolutely perfectly.
We're just amazing.
Now, just to do that extra little bit of last-minute homework that I thought of.
Last-minute homework?
I'm going to write a letter to the editor.
Oh, good.
About this paper, because I don't think that name actually reflects the content.
Well,
I think it misrepresents the paper, because when you get in deep, on page 19, we've got a full page dedicated here
to the mayoral minute.
The mayoral minute that only takes 45 minutes to read. And then follow that up with the page prior, page 17, the mayor's report for May.
There's a report as well.
So the mayor gets a full page.
Where's the Irvine report?
No, I don't get mate, I don't even get a look in.
But
unless council writes something negative against me, that gets published on the front page.
Fuck.
But there is never. Oh, no, there was an instance there where they reported on a council meeting and there was a unanimous vote.
Well, yes, but I don't think it came up that it was you that put it forward, was it? Somebody else put it forward, didn't they?
No, it was me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did I? I don't know. I don't buy
anyway,
this. I don't buy this ridiculous rag.
They didn't give it much.
Yeah, no. I don't read it for that. Well, I don't buy it. I read it obviously when I sit here with you and I have a bit of.
The reason I was drawn back to this superb piece of
journalistic nonsense
content, which is basically provided out of the mayor's diary direct with photos. And then followed up with the mayoral.
Well, I can't believe Albo's getting his photo in the Tomorrow paper. That's like right at the top of his bloody career list, that isn't it? Tell me that we're not the Labor Party of Tomorrow now, eh?
Now I just don't know why I didn't get an invite to this. 8th of May. The General Manager, Ms. Boxall, and I attended the Local Government New South Wales Rural and Regional Summit. This was one of the best held. Okay, I don't know about the English there, but anyway.
It is his second language. Go easy on him.
The General Manager, Ms. Boxall, and I attended a meeting with our New South Wales Premier, the Honourable Chris Minns, MP, New South Wales Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Ron Honig, and the New South Wales Minister, the Honourable Ryan Park.
So that was the Labor Party meeting.
This is in our respective capacities as Chairman and Secretary of Country Mayors Association of New South Wales. Chairman
and Secretary, so the Tomorrow duo are fucking running the whole show.
They are.
Jesus, you'd reckon there'd be some work here to be done. Surely some parks need mowing or something.
So obviously that was for high-level councillors and not all councillors this regional summit.
Albo's hosting a summit too, so it must be something in the water for summits.
I feel a bit disappointed because Mr. Thaler got a mention, but I didn't.
That's a bit sad. You've got up your game. Give it up your game.
I thought I might have got a mention in that.
What a complete load of bullshit and waste of taxpayers' money.
Well,
waste of time, fucking effort, energy, bullshit, and then for some reason some poor buggers are going to the trouble of reading that shit.
Well, that's right. Anyway, I think the Temora Independent is probably not a correct.
Do you reckon at the next election?
I think it needs to be called Rick's Rag.
Well, it should be. You might as well call it that. Hit Job Herald.
No.
We can redub it Rick's Rag. Whatever
Rick's
you like.
Rag. It has to be. Because
Rick's Rags.
Fundamentally, it is just like, it's all about, like, the second page here is just about community consultation with council. Then we've got a big win for council team. So that second page is dedicated to the council, banging the drum.
Banging the drum, you reckon? Then you're onto the Coolman Times, effectively.
Coolman gets a full go. Interesting to note that the tin mine at Ardlethan might be profitable. Now, there's not a lot of pages in the Temora paper, and the Mayor's got
4 of them, 6 of them.
Yeah.
It's
rapidly approaching 20 to 25% of the whole newspaper.
Yeah. Including the Coolman Times and the Ardlethan Bugle and whatever the fuck else they jam in the middle of that.
But by the time you add all that in, it's pretty much 50% local government news.
Yeah.
But it's all supplied by those operations.
And purported to be news.
Yes. Now,
purported to be, journalism.
Just to get off the negativity, and I know you've been a bit under the pump lately.
Under the pump? I've been fucking dynamic, as always.
Jill Dunn, at Temora Local, has been nominated for a major award from the peak body representing agricultural show societies in New South Wales.
Yeah, right.
She's one of 19 people from show societies throughout New South Wales nominated for the Ag Show New South Wales Living Legend Award.
Living Legend? Well, that sounds about all right. What does that involve?
I don't know.
Good on her anyway.
Talking about living legends that I know, I just want to take a bit of time out to congratulate you.
Me?
Yes.
Well, what have I done?
On the way you've conducted yourself since your massive setback a while ago with a DUI charge. And the way that you've repaid the faith in the judiciary's faith in you to leave you in the community and to allow you to continue being a father and a productive member of society.
Right. Do I get an award?
Well, you should.
I reckon I should.
Bloody oath, you should.
That's a bit random, mate, but you know.
No, but seriously, it's been a while. And I know last week you were buggered, you were tired, you've been working really hard. You probably think, and you get certain times, and everyone goes through this, there's certain times where no matter how hard you strive, you just can't keep them goals.
Oh, look.
And you just got to keep having the shots because there'll be a patch where they'll come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And since, like, I look at where you are at the moment, you've repaid the faith that your employer showed in you tenfold.
Oh, yeah. I think they're pretty happy, yeah.
You're providing a wonderful, safe home environment for your elderly aunt and your young son. Progress at your elderly aunt's new home is going along really well.
Hinchcliffe Homes and
so
the boys down there, all the tradies involved in that have done a great job.
Yeah, so that's really going well.
Yeah, of course.
You got an ETA when she might be in?
No, I think they're talking about lock-up stage sort of by the end of this month or next. And then, I don't know, maybe Christmas, hopefully.
Yeah, should be in by Christmas with a bit of luck.
If
they get a good run and no major hold-up.
Yeah, that'd be all right. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, and if it's that lock-up and it's sort of that bit of inclement time of the year, then the boys will always be looking for something to do inside. You think that it'll progress pretty quickly.
Yeah, I reckon it'll go all right. So far, so good.
Yeah,
they've been doing a great job. So
so that's a positive.
I'll give them a big thumbs up for that, for sure.
She got recognised in the Sports Council Awards, coach of the year.
She needs one of them Order of Australia medals before ScoMo. I don't think there's a kid that's gone through Temora in the last 40 years that she hasn't taught to swim.
Yeah, no, she does a great job. The young fella's kicking goals.
He's going all right.
Yeah.
He's going all right.
Yeah, so look, from a pretty dark place and a pretty shit time, you seem to have powered through. And you're going.
A statistic I came across the other day. Now, I'm probably too silly. That's probably why I power through these things and I do have such highs and lows and what have you, is because I don't really register them. I sort of jokingly said to somebody that I get hit by a truck and all I get is a bill for the damage done to the truck. You know, that's just how it kind of works. And then sometimes, you know, everything falls into place. But the leading cause of men under the age of, I think it was 65, could have been 55, is suicide.
Yeah, cause of death. Yes, I read that.
That's a staggering statistic. And I sit there and I think about some of these things, and I talk to a lot of people. And when you think about that being the statistic, and you look around at the young men effectively floating around, the most likely thing to kill them is themselves. And I've always jokingly said to Mum, if ever they say I've knocked myself, I've been assassinated.
Yes,
because I'm not going anywhere. I'm too stubborn.
Yeah.
Too pissed off.
Having too much fun.
Yeah, God, yeah. You know, I've got this little tweak mean streak.
And I'm not going to give them the satisfaction.
Yes. There's too many people that'd be thrilled to bits.
Yeah,
they can fuck off.
You're stuck with me, and I'm going to live to 100.
Unless you're going to assassinate me by your own hand, fuck you. I'm not going anywhere. But I do look at a lot of people who wouldn't cope with a lot of the things that I do, and a lot of things that I've done, and I get that. You know, like I do play a slightly different game.
Yes.
Comes at a cost. And it's a bit like that, go and get the safe government job. I could do that. But I'd rather chew glass. And it often hurts me, these things. They aren't. There are people who absolutely, look, I'm probably selling 20 to 25 cars a month now. You know, they reckon the average is 15 is considered a good month. I'm hitting here all the time. And I've set myself, you know, the 100 in 100 days.
Your employer could have pressed the panic button and cut you loose and said you're a liability. Your reputation is a liability to our business due to this setback.
Well, due to not just that, but the political state of things and the whatever. I get a feeling they like a little bit of it.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about scandal, but
no, not the scandal side of it, but they like, or they've worked out as a company, and it's a big company. They're on the stock exchange in fucking South Africa. So if you think some South African prick's going to give two shits, realistically, what's going on, one way or the other, they go selling 20 cars a month, nobody else is.
Yes.
Please justify why you would stop that. You know, so I have to perform for that faith to be valid.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's not like, anyway, they didn't go out of their way to do anything special over that period when you.
Oh, look, they tried just about everything to work out how to solve that gap.
Yes, but there was that gap there.
There was that gap. Yeah.
Without transportation for a period. That didn't last very long. I do recall you
3 months, I think it was.
Yeah, you might have put a post up out the front of the
newspaper,
the independent office when you actually got your license back. That was after they did a massive smear campaign on your reputation.
They had a pretty big run.
They did go pretty hard, didn't they?
And again,
did it blow up in their face to some extent?
Well, I don't know whether it did, because I don't know who gives a shit. But anytime, it doesn't matter who you are.
You haven't seemed to have given them any more fuel to fuel that fire, and they don't seem to come around and sort of come.
What they worked out is, I'm not going to be bullied, and if you fuckers want to come at me, I will come at you 100%. And I think it doesn't matter what organisation it is.
But are we going to?
It makes no difference to me whether you're the Australian government.
Are we going to see an article? You know, Dean McRae sells lots of cars and has 12 months without getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Dean McRae does good things for family. Dean McRae is a good dad. Are we going to,
no, because there would be some who would go, hang on a minute, but, you know, like.
Anyway, like I say, I just sort of take some time.
I appreciate the sentiment. I think it's
so easy to get bogged down in the bullshit and not realise actually how much progress people are making at times.
And I do think that there's a lot of blokes out there that need a boost, often and a lot.
Yeah.
And it's bloody hard. And when it gets hard, head down, bum up, keep grinding, don't stop. You know, and yeah, I mean, they're not going to. I'd have to work. I'd have to do something pretty spectacularly stupid for them to come gunning at me again. They're not that dumb. Well, because I'll make a video about them every day. And I will call out their bullshit day after day. I have that never-ending energy that I can compete with you fuckers. And that goes for anybody in that space. It doesn't matter whether it was the former deputy prime minister. Doesn't matter whether it was these COVID cockheads, the green dream lunatics. I have a level of energy that's an advantage.
And if you're right, you're right.
Well,
and that gives you power anyway.
And look, and every 5 minutes they come up with some bullshit, and you go, "Oh, well, you did this," and I go, "I've never shied away from one damn thing. Nothing, not a thing." So you're not going to bring anything out of my closet and go, "See, look," because I'll go, "No shit, dickhead."
One thing I'm discussing with someone the other day, with all this shit that goes on with council and the way that they treat me, and I said to them, I said, I've worked for these wankers since 2000. And I've supplied product to them for that period of time, and there is not one single instance that they can find where I haven't delivered what I was tasked to deliver. I've always delivered over and above. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's the thing that's probably the most disappointing part about all of this, is to have someone who actually acted with ethics and held up their end of the bargain so well for so long, and then to kick them in the guts and treat them like they have. I think it's just disgusting. But hey, but I'm the villain.
This is a prevalent sort of a thing around this little community and others, I'm sure.
Anyway, I'm the villain for doing that.
You're the villain. I'm often the bad guy. Here's the reality. If I see something that I consider to be wrong, disgusting, inappropriate, or fucked,
but
I'll say exactly what I think.
Again, and in the same vein of what you're talking about, the way that I've dealt with that is to focus on all of my other clients, make sure my business is strong. I've just had all of the paperwork processed for another big corporate client.
Nice.
And I've also...
So you lost one shitty, annoying, frustrating client?
I haven't lost.
Well, you don't do council's work anymore.
Well, I don't do much of it. I do some of it.
Yeah. But
I do select.
Your business doesn't live or die by whether or not you're kissing council's ass.
My business doesn't live or die whether I'm kissing anyone's ass.
Good.
And that's the sort of business I like.
Absolutely.
And look, there's a hell of a lot of people around who are quite happy to have me rattle on the cage, and they'll throw me a bone just to keep me going.
Yeah.
But also the other business that I've got on the sideline, it's I've taken on new clients this week in that respect. So it's just a slow grind, but you know, there are periods in your life where you feel... I was school smart, but I didn't want to go to uni. I wanted to go and do a trade.
Yeah.
Then there was a period, once I started that trade and got into it, and I didn't feel like I was making a lot of progress, and I made a few dumb decisions. And I realised that, by jingoes, this was going to be a bit tougher than I'd first thought.
Life's always tougher than you think. And just when you think it hurts, life will find a way to hurt you a bit more. Don't worry.
Have to have a bit of a go. So anyway, there was a period after that where I thought, wow, I might have pulled the wrong rein here. I should have probably, used my skill smarts and gone to university. Anyway, I stuck at it, the trades, and learnt me chops and got some skills under my belt. And then I started interacting with these people who'd gone to university. And then I realised just how lucky I'd been.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because I had all of the technical capabilities and the skills to enact my visions and my thoughts, whereas they didn't.
Yeah.
And they had all of this ephemeral, this knowledge that was there, but they couldn't do anything with it. And a lot of it wasn't founded in common sense, and they had no ability to actually bring any of their ideas to fruition.
Socialism as its fun.
Oh, you got to feel sorry for them. And that's another instance of going against the flow, because at that point in time, there was a massive push. You weren't going to be nothing if you didn't go to uni.
Oh, we had that as well. Yeah, look, fuck.
But who's,
it's just nonsense, and it's, there are plenty of good people who have had pretty good lives without a uni degree. Well, I think they're becoming less and less valuable every 15 minutes.
Well, I just find that the people who have got them more often than not are a blight. They really are people who are just got this entitled attitude. They've got no real common sense and don't bring very much productive to society at all. So that's my thoughts.
I agree.
Yeah, on that. So anyway,
I agree. But
anyway,
ladies and gentlemen,
I reckon you've done really well. I hope you continue to do so. I know that there'll be ups and downs because that's the way you roll.
Oh God, yeah. Look, if it was a straight line, I'd be bored.
But look,
I'd be bored.
God love you. Good effort.
There you go. I'm all warm and fuzzy.
No, look, I just reckon it's worth saying.
Oh, well, there you go. Thank you.
And it's not said often enough, but like I say, I just looked at that living legend article and I thought, I know a living legend.
That's a bit of a worry.
Yeah. Anyway,
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, wrapping it up on that.
Stephen
positive
Spin Doctors. I'll have another crack. I'll have a crack through the week at some stage and see if I maybe over the weekend and I'll run a live stream and see if we can make the Facebook thing work again. I've got me bugging. As soon as I turn that off, I'll be able to set that on public and you'll be able to watch it. So still share it around with your friends, all that sort of stuff. It will be on the Facebook page. It just doesn't seem to want to allow me to live stream at the moment.
No, get it out there.
Anyway.
Spread the love and get around Sophie Wright at Bathurst and get around Andrew Taylor at Snowy Monero
and that Anthony Irvine guy.
Get around these people who are bringing the word to the streets.
That's gangster, isn't it? Yeah. For sure.
All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. See you next week.